Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer, and you can find me on Ravelry as a designer called Skeindeer Knits. And that is also the name of my Ravelry group, Skeindeer Knits. And it's the best place to get in touch about knitalongs and chatter, pattern support, questions, the community, all of that stuff. So I do recommend joining in that group. It's the primary place where I deal with the kind of Skeindeer Knits related communications. Mostly because I'm really bad with inboxes. I've been particularly bad with inboxes lately. Like, I have this mental list of people I need to get back to and it's getting very long and very stressful. So as I've said before many times, if I'm not getting back to you, it's not you, it's me, and I am kicking myself off the butt for it every day. But having said that, I never mind getting comments on posts on Instagram, comments on these videos. That is always appreciated. It's so good to hear from you guys. I'm just rubbish with inboxes, and I just wanted to apologize up front. It's nothing new. It's not a new announcement for anyone who's followed me for a long time. Speaking of which, if you're a returning viewer, hello and welcome back. And if you're a new viewer, welcome to this whole thing. This is my knitting podcast, aka knitting talk show, aka just me rambling about knitting for about an hour, usually once a week. The videos come out weekly, but I haven't really been on a set day for a very long time. I am supposedly finishing up a PhD thesis, and that I don't want to talk about. They make t-shirts saying, do not ask me about my PhD, and there's a reason why, okay? But yeah, having my hands full a little bit means I haven't had a good sort of weekly schedule as I used to have. So usually my episodes come out somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday, sometimes Friday. Usually, because I will record at the beginning of the week and edit whenever I have time. And yeah, that's just how things work here. And before we get into all the knitting talk, I am just going to briefly cover some admin stuff, and they all relate to Knitalongs that you are more than welcome to join. And because I know content is a bit thin on the ground in this episode, I'm actually going to talk about what Knitalongs are, because there are a couple of people who have no idea, and I still remember being that person. So what is a Knitalong? It's kind of what it sounds like. It's knitting along with others. It can be knitting just the one and the same pattern for a set period of time. It can just be knitting the same pattern but with no particular deadline. It can be knitting a category of patterns with a deadline. It really depends on the rules of the individual knit-along. I myself put the rules in my Ravelry group, so each knit-along will have a chatter thread, and the first post in that chatter thread will have the rules in it. So that's kind of how that works. And often I get a question, how do I take part? How do I enter? Well, the key way of taking part is really engaging in the chatter thread, being part of the conversation. And yeah, in the end, my knit-alongs will have a second thread opened, usually, not always, but usually, where you post your finished item or items. The way I do it is, if you have items, you have one post per item. If it's one collection, then you just have one post with that collection. If it's just one item, then just one post with that item. And that is your finished knitted thing. If the deadline required you to finish, again, this depends on the different knit-alongs. So the actual official participation comes down at the very end, where you submit your entry. But during when the knit-along is actually happening, there is no submitting anywhere. You literally just started talking with people and maybe mutually helping each other out, or just expressing your enjoyment, or telling people about your progress, your yarn choices, color choices, swatches, samples, like swatch samples, like, you know, trying out the color combinations, whatever. So that is kind of, yeah, how Knitalongs generally work, but people do them differently. Like sometimes people will host them on Instagram instead, and then it revolves around a hashtag. So they may have a hashtag unique for that Knitalong, and they will draw prizes based on that if they have prizes. Some Knitalongs do not. Sometimes they're just there for making people knit the same thing together, and some will do prizes as an incentive. I tend to do that because it's also a really good opportunity to showcase other makers. I don't usually do that as a general part of my podcast, you know, like grocery girls, they will often just talk about other people's things all the time, and I tend not to do that. So for me, a giveaway prize or a Knitalong prize can be really good to actually show products that other indie makers make. Patterns, yarn in particular, project bags, stitch markers. So that is kind of what a Knitalong is. If you have any other questions, you can put them down below. I think that's the general thing. And there's always Google, you know, what is a Knitalong? You could Google that. I'm sure there might be other versions, other formats that people use. I am mostly familiar with the Ravelry format, where someone who has a Ravelry group will be doing it in a roughly similar manner to what I do. But you always have to check the individual Knitalong rules thread, and that is where they will be writing out, you know, whether you can enter other Knitalongs with the same item, which usually I don't understand why someone would say you can't, but I usually say that you can't, just to make that clear. About deadlines, about starting dates, a lot of Knitalongs are very strict about how you can't enter with something that's basically already finished or close to finished. So yeah, that's just individual aspects, rules that depends on the individual Knitalong and the person or people hosting it. So hopefully that help people out, people who do not know how to take part in them. It's a social thing, so if you're not in it for the community aspect, maybe that's not for you. Maybe you just like knitting solo, and yeah, that's fine. That's completely fine too. I haven't taken part in Knitalongs for a long time myself because I am busy and I can't commit to anything, but for a lot of people it's great. It makes them finish stuff, it makes them kind of a bit more structured. A lot of people thrive on that. So yeah, individual differences and all that stuff. Anyway, the Knitalongs I am hosting, I promise we will talk about actual knitting soon, but yeah, I am hosting 2 Knitalongs currently. I am hosting the year-long Knitalong of 2019. This is the second run of the year-long Knitalong. We had one last year as well, and it's the same rule as every year. We aim to make 6 pairs of colorwork mittens for the whole year, so they can't have been started before 2019, and you must finish by the end so that you can post your collection usually in time for New Year's, but I will let you know when we get closer to that time. I have not opened a thread where you can post those finished mittens, but that is the goal. I do always ask that you consider fairness in this. It's not a competition, but if you're in it to get 6 pairs in to be in a prize draw, don't find loopholes like making 6 pairs of Aran weight mittens, you know, when other people are entering with fairly taking a long time to make fingering weight mittens and things like that. You are allowed to use any weight you want. I'm just saying, you know, be fair, consider that this needs to be on a sort of equal entry level. And I want to leave that up to you, because I don't want to put any restraints and say you can only have 1 Aran weight mitten in your collection and stuff like that, because that's no fun. We don't like rules. Anyway, apparently I'm very rambly and chatty today. The other Knitalong I'm hosting, I kicked off last week, but you can have started the project at the launch date of the relevant pattern, and the relevant pattern is Kuusikofta. I feel so cringy when I say that. It's just the cringiest name, but I couldn't choose any other name. This is Kuusikofta. This is the cardigan. It always hangs on my chair because I always want to just be wearing it whenever I'm cold, which isn't too rare. So it is a ginormous cardigan. Maybe I should just show you. There's so much stuff hanging up on that chair. I mean, yeah, this is Kuusikofta. It's massive. Don't want to, you know, give anyone any delusions that this is just the light thing. It is not. There are ways of making it lighter, like I've suggested holding super soft yarns together, like JC Rennie or Holst, Garnetsal. There are lots of yarn options. I think that'd be really nice. Reuma Lammull double, that'd be amazing. But yeah, you would be holding 4 strands all the time, so you know, that's not to everyone's liking. So you could go for the very heavy Peer Gynt that I used. That's completely up to you. It's heavy. It weighs probably between 1 kilo or 2. So that's just how it is. I really just wanted to make a traditional heavy duty Norwegian style cardigan, because I'm from Norway, in case you missed that. And yeah, I just really like this kind of knitwear. It is very long. It's got long sleeves, it's got a long body. It's meant to like cover both your hands and your bum. It is long, but that can be modified. If you want to modify it, you just knit this section a bit shorter, and you could like take out as much as like 4 inches. That means you will have to continue the increases into the pattern, but you will already have some practice from that up here, so that should be fine. I trust you can do that. And same here, you can make this section here shorter. So I am always happy to see modifications happening in my Knitalongs. It just needs to be the same pattern still, you know, it needs to be recognizable, but I'm not opposed to seeing modifications. I always think that's a great thing. I love seeing knitters think independently, because there's a lot of things that us as designers put into patterns that's actually quite arbitrary. There's a lot of times when I've knitted or designed like top-down yokes, and I've made the yoke and I think, can't I just write knit to desired length and call it a day and decrease your, you know, arms, sleeves? No, you can't do that. You have to give people specific lengths and specific lengths for different sizes and make that a ratio to their bust measurement, and it doesn't make any sense, but that's like the sizing standards out there, and you got to do all those things because it's proper. But really, I just want to tell people, just, you've done the yoke, off you go. But you can't do that, so you put all these arbitrary things in the pattern according to sizing spreadsheets and stuff, and people go, oh, do I really have to knit 30 centimeters? I think maybe 28 centimeters is better for my size. I'm like, yes. Do you know, did you have that when, this was before I was a designer and I would be knitting the bottom rib for a body, and it said that it needed to be 6 centimeter long, and I was like 5.5 centimeter in, and I was so sick of the rib, and I really thought there must be some good reason why it says 6 centimeters. There must be a good reason. There is no good reason. If you are sick of the rib after 5.5 centimeter, you are free to change into stockinette. There is no rule that you have to do that last half centimeter. You can quote me on that. Good, that was a digression. But yeah, Kosekofte is massive. It's like a blanket. Hello, I'm gone. What is going on with me today? This is the rambly one. So yeah, you can have this basically if you just take part in the knit along and follow the pattern and all that stuff. How about that? And maybe I should sew on the buttons. That way I can take part. I can't take part. I can't be my own price drawer. I don't know what the prices are yet. I am always happy for people to submit prices, you know, sending me maybe yarns or bags and stuff in the mail, and I will ship that out to winners. That is amazing. If people want to contribute with prices, I absolutely love that. So yeah, I don't know if I have much else to say about good old Kosekofte here. I'm gonna put it back on my chair and keep rambling. Now, I did wrap up a knit along in the last episode. It was the second language cal. Okay, small clip from Elliot from the future here. I still have time to record, so I have done the prize draw for the second language cal, and I will be drawing the winners. Well, I have drawn the winners. I'll be announcing the winners right now. So, drum roll. The first three winners that I'm gonna announce will have won a pattern each. I will tell you who the designer is as I am drawing the winner. So, just gonna grab my laptop. The first winner is, for any mispronunciations I will put the name here, but Tricothon. Anyway, she made Vintereng by Ellen. Ellen has, along with her mum, a yarn shop called Fortuna, which is just outside my hometown in Norway, and it's an amazing shop and it's very different from other Norwegian yarn shops. And it was kind of one of the first shops in Norway of its kind, and it's just really cool shop. It was really cool seeing the ladies again in Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And yes, they also do make designs. Ellen's made this amazing yoke design, and this is what the winner had made. So that pattern was only available in Norwegian, and yet the winner was able to create it. So well done. You have won a pattern from the Blue Mouse. So we haven't actually arranged like download codes or anything like that, so if you can get in touch with me just to let me know that you have won, I will get in touch with the Blue Mouse and we can find out which pattern you can win. I assume it's going to be a pattern of your choice, but yeah, admin is still a bit on the low side here. But congratulations for winning a pattern. She has amazing patterns. The second winner is Brina B, and she had made Winter Lines, which is the pattern in German, and that's amazing. So you win a pattern by Heidi Kiermaier. Now Heidi has sent me a download code, so if you get in touch with me, I will send you that code, and if I understood it right, that code will apply to any pattern in her store. Hopefully that's how it works, if my memory serves me right, and if not, we will sort it out. Oh my god. The third winner that we have is Misty Macht, who made Felix Mama by Stickizilla. So that's a pattern in Norwegian, and again, well done for conquering that. You also win a pattern by Heidi Kiermaier, so again, just get in touch with me and I will give you a code that should be applicable to any of her Ravelry patterns. And thanks so much to Heidi Kiermaier and to the Blue Mouse for donating patterns. Thank you, that is so generous. As a fellow designer, I know what that means, so thanks for offering patterns up for this knit along. Now, the last two prizes, I actually have physical prizes that I will be sending out to you, provided that you get in touch with me with your address. And the first winner there is Mrs. Meldrum, I think, if I spelled that right, Mrs. Meldrum. You made two things, which is crazy but amazing. She made Hildes Vinsock, which is a pattern in Norwegian, and the Summer Bralette, which is in Sweden, by Maja Karlsson. So that's incredible, and you get a pattern that was so generously donated by a viewer, and I say generously because this is fancy schmancy stuff. This is 2 skeins from the Little Grey Sheep. Yes, I want to keep this so bad, you have no idea. It hurts. Oh my god, I shouldn't be holding this. It's so lovely. Oh my god. Anyway, this is the Little Grey Sheep. It's the Gotland, British Gotland 4-ply yarn. I love how they write these things, like shared by Susie, washed in Yorkshire, spun in Devon, and hand dyed on the farm by Emma. It's got 330 meters per 100 gram skein. I get 200 gram skeins that should work beautifully well together. Oh my god, they feel so good. I shouldn't be doing that. I'm gonna give this away. You probably don't want my DNA all over it. I'm just gonna subtly just, oh. I love Gotland. I have never worked with Gotland actually. How, just look at that. Anyway, you'll get these skeins in the post if you send me your address on private message on Ravelry. The last winner of this knit along is Torchy Blaine. She made Ganse nummer 490 by Per Spook, which is in Norwegian, and it's no small feat. Like, that was amazing. It's amazing, full-on color work sweater. I'm not sure she finished, but there wasn't a finishing requirement, and random number generator doesn't discriminate between finished and not finished anyway, so congratulations. I think this is very, very well deserved, because that, in another language, I mean, goodness me. So yes, you win this prize, and this is a combination of yarn and project bag. I'm not taking it out of the packaging because it's beautifully packaged, to be honest. So yeah, you get this, I think it's a dark blue skein and an orange skein, and this bag that is made by Alison Williams. Now, this was donated to the podcast quite a while ago by Page of Frame and Fiber, which is an amazing yarn shop in New Jersey, which I have had the privilege of visiting myself, and it was so generous of her to donate a bunch of prices a while ago, and this is the last price that is going out. It's super generous. Like, I think this is a pretty sizable bag, so you know, not too shabby. So again, just get in touch with me with your address and I will have that shipped up to you as soon as I can, I guess, leave the house, if I ever do that. So yeah, that was all the winners. Thank you all so much for taking part in this knit along. I hope to see all of you in future knit alongs. I will be now returning back to the regular screening where I'll be talking about, if I haven't already, all the knit alongs. Oh, why is my memory this short? I already don't remember what I recorded like 2 hours ago, which you just saw. Which anyway. So let's get into my works in progress for this week. I do not have any finished items. We all know there's a lot of potential for finished items in this room, but I've not done that. Let's not get too spoiled from last week's episode where I had 2 finished jumpers. No, this is not how we're doing things today. There are 3 works in progress. One is a new cast on, because that's how I live my life. And yeah, let's just dive straight into it. Let's just start talking about my latest cast on. It lives in this adorable bag that my mum made me, and yeah, in here we have Apricite. I'm gonna call it Apricite, whatever. It's in the latest Lane magazine. It is on, maybe I will just show you the thing first, hang on. Lane is right here because I'm actually reading the pattern from the book for a change. No weird like photos taken on my phone kind of thing. It's actually right here. So this is the sweater in question. It is on the cover, and I had the fortune of being able to try on this very sample at Edinburgh Yarn Festival because all the samples were hanging out in the Isolde booth. So I tried it on and it fit me really well. So just to show you a little close-up and more photos. Now I think this lady must be relative to me teeny tiny, because on me this sweater did not look big and long and oversized. It looked a bit oversized, but it didn't look particularly long. It actually looked like it had a very nice, cute, kind of short but not cropped fit. And I'm not very tall, so that was surprising. I would not have guessed that. If I would have just gone from this photo, I would have thought that this was quite a huge sweater that would reach me kind of as long as Kosekofte does. And I would have just thought it would be a lot longer. So on me, and I'm average height for Northwestern European women, so that's like 167.5 centimeters. I'm pretty bang on there. It doesn't look very oversized lengthwise. It just looked like any other sort of really nice jumper fit, and it looked like it had a good length for skirts even, so it's kind of on the short side, and I loved it. And I love the feel of it as well, the combination of the 2 Viola yarns in there. It was like wearing, oh, I just felt like a silky fluffy kitten, so I had to cast it on. And I'm not using Viola yarns, I am using a combination of Skein Queen and Ainsworth. The Ainsworth is the silk mohair, and Skein Queen, I can't for the life of me remember the base. I'm just gonna look it up now, hang on. Aha, it's the Sonsea, which is 70% Corriedale and 30% Polworth, which explains why I love it so much. And the combination of these 2 yarns is creating something very similar to the 2 Viola yarns in the pattern. Not identical, but very similar. And I've had a good squish of the Viola yarns, and I can attest to how I think this is a pretty close yarn substitute. And it was from Stash, albeit not very old Stash. I bought both of these at Unravel at the end of February this year, and I had no plans of actually using these 2 together. I was thinking I would use my beautiful Gideon yarn silk mohair, but as it turns out, the meterage of the silk mohair that I have and the meterage of the Skein Queen yarn was almost the same. So instead of having leftovers from Gideon yarn silk mohair, I could actually use up the complete sweater quantity of both of these. So I've gotten quite far on the body. Oh, I love how this looks. Let's just do a close-up. Look at that. Oh, and the feel, and it's so light and warm and fluffy and silky, and I'm gonna feel so elegant and cute in this. Anyway. So the body is like, I'm gonna say about 4-5 centimeters short of the total length up to the underarm. And I'm a bit worried about how much yarn I have. I should have enough according to the pattern. I should be just enough, which is a bit risky. So I thought I might just knit it a bit shorter than it says, because I am a wearer of skirts. That's gonna be fine. But I'm still a bit worried. This is how much I have left. I have a silk mohair well protected here. I have a bit of a scrap. And this is how much I have left of the main wool base, the DK yarn from Skein Queen. And there's a bit more left, because I have also done the sleeves, and whoo, this is one sleeve, and this is the other sleeve, and this is how much I have left there. So this sleeve is nearly done. I have put in a marker here and here. So these represent the same place. You can see just how little there's left before this second sleeve is finished. I am working it up on a 16-inch, aka 40 centimeter circular. This is a prim needle, and this is how I fly through sleeves. Why? Sleeve Island is, not a problem exactly. It's less problematic than it would have been had I been magic looping my sleeves. That's just my preference there, but I find that this has been my personal solution to fly through sleeves and just kind of have a very temporary stay on Sleeve Island, you know. So I am nearly done with the sleeves. So now this is how much I have left, and consider that these were originally each 200 grams of DK weight yarns, and how this skein is all that went into the body. This used to be 200 grams, and the body is completely consisting of this and the silk mohair that was held double with it. And this is what's left from the two sleeves. So I had one skein used for the sleeve, one skein used for the body, and I think I might just make it. Given how much of this has already been used, and I've made a considerable portion of the jumper, I think I'm fine, but I am very nervous about this whole yarn chicken scenario. I'm hopeful, but nervous. Yeah, I'm pretty confident about the silk mohair for whatever reason, because I'm still on this one, which is quite full, and also this one, which there's still a considerable amount left, and an unused one, and I had 5, so that's going pretty well. Anyway, that was the yarn amount. I'm living on the edge for this one properly, because this was a one-off colorway from Skein Queen. Not only was it one-off, but she's kind of sort of retiring. She's I mean, the business, she's leaving it to, I think, one of the assistants in the business, something like that. So this is definitely not going to be something I can get more of, unless, you know, I break into Hannah of Corner Craft's house and steal her skein. Yeah, so it's risky business. It is. If I don't have enough, I don't know what to do. Oh, yeah. Why am I doing this to myself? Well, you know, it's good with a challenge. I am hopeful but terrified. And I think it'll be fine, right? Is this me being in denial? And anyway, modifications. If you have knitted this or you have looked at the pattern, you may have noticed that some things are a bit different, because the sleeves are worked in the round, and so is the body. And this pattern is made to be knitted flat. And if you're a long-term viewer of this podcast, you know how I feel about purling. And I'm not actually that into mattress seaming either. It's not that I hate it, there is a certain rewarding aspect to it, especially when you do that last pull where it's just all coming together. I just don't like the whole stockinette curling in and having to like bend it out and finding the little thing. No, it's not for me. But mainly it's the purling. I get into a big flow of knitting if I can work in the round and stockinette. So that's what I'm doing, and there's a considerable portion of stockinette in this thing, so this is just amplifying my enjoyment of this knitting project. So I'm really enjoying it. I haven't modified the stitch count for the body when doing that, so technically, arguably, I may have 4 stitches too many, or 2, depending. I did take out 1 stitch each from the sleeves because I had to make sure the rib would add up to a 1x1 rib, and an odd number is not going to do that. So that's that. Maybe I should have taken out 2 to 4 stitches in the body, but I didn't do that. So if that will be the reason I run out of yarn, I'm going to be mighty furious at myself. But yeah, it was pretty straightforward to modify to work in the round. Like I said, for the sleeves, you just take out 1 stitch and then you just work the instructions in the round. So for the roast, where it says just purl, that's when you just knit, and that's it. You're not turning any rows. It was very easy to work the sleeves in the round. For the body, it was a little bit harder because I think each front and back should start and finish with a purl, and so that was why I just didn't do that. I started with a purl and it ended with a knit at the very end of the round, and that was fine. It doesn't need to like continue from rib to lace in any way. It doesn't seem like there's a relationship there, so it was completely fine. And working it in the round was easy. I just put in some markers that represent the end of the front and the back. So far I found it very easy, but it does tell you to knit all the way up, and if you do that when you work in the round, you're gonna find that you have no armholes, right? You're gonna have to stop sometime and divide for the front and the back, and so you have to do a bit of maths there and find out seaming instructions, how much you're supposed to not be seaming, and take that out from the length of the body worked in the round so that you know when to stop and work the front and back separate. It's a bit difficult because there's a lot of instructions that say, you know, knit so much less than the full length of the back and stuff like that, that assume you're knitting in the flat, and it assumes you're knitting it in that order, which I am not. So you just have to do a little bit of maths, but it's nothing more complicated than adding and subtracting. It's mostly just subtracting. So it's pretty easy maths, and that's coming from someone who was never particularly good at maths. I've never been particularly bad either. I'm just kind of, if it's applied, I can usually get it because I can see whether it works. Yeah, which is pretty much why I only excel at maths and knitting, and that's about it. So yes, that was a recite by Kiyomi Bergen. I'm sorry, this is the name butchering of the name butchering party today. That made no sense. I'm so sorry, Kiyomi. You make amazing patterns. I love your patterns. I'm just terrible at pronouncing. Anyway, it's a lovely pattern. A lot of her patterns, or at least a handful of them, have been in my queue for quite some time now. I think it was her hat pattern that I talked about earlier from the Interweave 100 book that I have, which I would love to make. It's a beautiful hat. It's got color work. I mean, so yeah, now that I have shared my fear of potentially running out of yarn, my inability to pronounce things, and experimenting with knitting in the round, and stubbornness to purl, I will tell you how much I am enjoying this process. For me, it certainly did rely on being able to turn it into a knit in the round project, but all my days have I enjoyed this. I can't put this thing down. I love the texture of it, the holding the 2 yarns together. I love how quick it is. I mean, I'm using a 5mm needle to get gauge personally. It's just enough interest to keep me going, but it's just simple enough to also keep me going. I absolutely love this. I haven't really had this kind of experience since I think I worked on the hay sweater. Also kind of similar box shape with fairly intuitive lace work on the front, although that was meant to be worked in the round, and I think I picked up some ideas from that. I am just loving this. It is right up my alley in terms of the whole process of knitting. So I can highly recommend this pattern. I can't put this thing down. I mean, you just notice how much progress there is on this thing already. I have a half finished body and practically 2 finished sleeves. that's not progress that you see a lot on this channel. I will usually put a project away after it's halfway done, and yeah, I still have a lot to go on. I've not lost steam on this project. I'm really enjoying it. And there's something to be said for bottom-up constructions, because I do prefer top-down. I find it easier to modify length mostly. I'm very confident about fit right now. I know that if I have a certain stitch count and have a certain gauge, which I can always just measure as I'm knitting, I know if it's going to fit and how it's going to fit. But length is still a little bit of a challenge. So I prefer top-down for that reason. But still, bottom-up is so... I don't know what it is, but it makes me finish so much faster because I'm working on the different bits individually. And I think this is something that people who work things in the flat, who work things flat, can relate to, is having those smaller pieces that give you a sense of completion a lot sooner. You don't hit that middle point where you're working on this one big massive thing. You're working on just one sleeve and just one sleeve and just one body, maybe even one front and back, and maybe even two fronts if it's a cardigan. And I think you get a bit more instant gratification that way. And I certainly can relate to that for knitting bottom up. It does have a place still. I do still recommend a top down for beginners, things like the flax sweater, even Woodwardia, who I talked about in the last episode. But oh my days, does bottom up help me finish things quickly. You saw evidence of that for the, the after party sweater, also from Lane magazine, and I finished this so quickly because I could just power through each individual bit of these three, and once I got here, it was just fun, right? So yeah, I still haven't actually shipped this off to my friend. I thought I would send it off with my friend who's moving to Oslo and will be staying with her for a while. Turns out she's still in London, which I'm very happy about, but it does mean that I should have sent it ages ago. Well, my other friend could have still worn it. But anyway, after party. It's on my Ravelry projects if you're curious. And it came in, I think, the previous issue of Lane. There was a lot of stuff in that issue that I was just like, yeah, I have to knit that. I really come to love Lane. I was a little bit hesitant about Lane in the beginning. Like the two first issues were not really up my alley. Like I still look at them and there's very little in there that I want to like immediately cast on so I can have it and wear it. Whereas anything from issue 3 onwards, I am mildly preoccupied by, let's just say that. There's a lot of things in there that suits my style, that I really want to make, that I don't know, they just appeal to me, and they fit a lot of stuff that I have in my stash, so that's good too. So we can, you know, reduce that a little bit. And in my blister bag we have another work in progress. This is The Weekender by Andrea Mowry. I think it's considerably longer since last time you saw it. I think we're about 30 centimeters in, so I've got about, I want to say about 8 to go. If I want that length, I think I want that length. Usually 30 is more than plenty for me wearing skirts, so I'm having a think. I'm having a think if I want the recommended length. But yeah, this is what it looks like from the inside, because it's worked inside out, which, oh my god, thank you so much, Andrea Mowry. I could not have purled this entire thing. I'm so glad I don't have to modify that. So this is the actual outside that is currently on the inside. Yes, it looks exactly like Amy of the Stranded Podcast's Weekender, because it is made with the exact same yarn. I saw hers and I had already been thinking about holding whole super soft double. I love the 2 shades of grey that she put together, and I'm just making the exact same thing. It feels a bit icky now, it looks a bit icky because of all the spinning oil on Holst, but that will come off in a wash. So I don't have much else to say about the project. It's just knitting in the round. There's not much to add as of yet, but I do want to comment on the whole washing Holst and stuff like that, because this is something I get asked a lot, and I've said it before and I feel a bit mean to have to say it again, but I am not Holst support. If you want help with Holst super soft yarns, Should probably ask Holst. I'm not selling Holst. I have said how much I like it for its price tag and versatility, but in the end I profit exactly zero from that. I've just bought, I'm just looking at my stack of codes now. Do you want to see it? Let's just, an avid customer, right? And as a customer, it is true that I do have a lot of experience with Holst Super Soft. The good and the bad, I can tell you a lot of things about it, and I will gladly do so. But often I end up answering the same questions several times over, and it gets a little bit tiring, which is usually why I really prefer that we talk about these things in my Ravelry group, because then I don't have to say the same thing several times and people can find the answer without actually having to wait for several weeks for me to get back to them about these things. And that pertains to things like how do you wash out the oil, which I have said numerous times on the podcast. I put it in the washing machine on a delicate cycle, no friction, 30 degrees or lower. I prefer no spinning, but you could also have full spinning to get the water out. Yeah, that's what I do. But hey, there are some people who never want to wash their stuff in the machine, and I can't give advice on that because I've never done that, and I wouldn't do that because for me it works out in the machine. So that's that story. I just prefer machine washing things. If it's possible, I will do that. Having said all of that, it is the most rewarding thing, taking a Holst garment out of the washing machine, a garment made in Holst Super Soft that you washed in the machine, and you take it out and you've just got this beautiful bloomy thing where it just looked icky and a bit hard and see-through and stuff when you were knitting on it, and you take it out of the machine and it's like, I love that feeling. Anyway, I have another work in progress to show you. One more. It is Polworth, which I actually have in print because I bought it from Isolde at her studio in September when me and Shamika popped by on our way back from Perth. And I haven't worked on this for a while. I was working on it a lot right up until Christmas, and the only reason I didn't finish was because it didn't fit into my suitcase, because I brought a lot of projects to bring home then, and I thought I will just finish it as soon as I come back. And here we are. It's April, it's not finished, but oh my days, it's close. It is very close. So this is Polworth. See if we can blow out the camera a bit more to see. Yeah, there we are. It is amazing. I love this. This is sleeve 1 and sleeve 2, just to prove to you that it is so close to being finished. The body has been worked on a lot this weekend. I think I've gotten like this much in. It has been a marathon and I'm almost there. I put in some waist shaping. I put in a little bit more than Isolde recommends because I am a bit of a curvy one. I sometimes look at myself in the mirror and I like have to laugh because I'm like, I am such a pear shape. Like this is like my shoulder, and this is like we go, oh, it's bust, there's a bit of bust, there's a bit of waist, and then hips, and then boom, goes out. So I wanted to decrease a little bit more towards the waist, and now I'm just like increasing, make sure it still fits while my hips just go out, horizontally out. Yeah, it's all good. I like it. It means that the vintage look is kind of, I don't have to fake it. I just put on a skirt. So yeah, this is kind of the waist now. You can see it's going quite abruptly down here, and now we're increasing even more abruptly. Yeah, I like that. So I don't know if I should maybe put in a bit more increases to end up with a bit more stitches towards the hips, because the way the pattern is made, you actually will have a slightly more narrow hip than bust for that your given size. That's not gonna work here. I think I got more than 4 inches extra for my hips than for my bust. At least, if not 8. No, not 8, that's 6 maybe. 4 or 5. I don't know. And it's been a while since I measured, and it's not the part I like to measure the most. Oh well, too much information. Anyway, it's happening. I am now just debating the brioche, because this beautiful sweater is using brioche instead of rib. It's using brioche for the rib, I should say. It's a brioche rib. It did not work out well for the neckline. It's flopping back. Still haven't found a good solution for that. Still haven't really tried. I might sew in some elastic. I might just see how it fits when I wear it. I'm not very hopeful. It still looks like it's bending back when I like do this. It's not great. When I bound off for the sleeves, I used a sewn tubular bind off. It's really weird, my camera, the like darker things I show it, the more it gets dark. But yeah, sewn tubular bind off, not very elastic. This is how much I can stretch this. It's fine, but like, it's not elastic at all. I thought it was supposed to be. And I'm supposed to be using a matching binder for the body, right? It will be a brioche rib for the body. And because it's brioche, you're already slipping stitches, so you don't have to do the setup slip stitches before you sew the bind off. I'm talking as though you know the tubular bind off. I'm just going to keep doing that because I can't explain that. But if you're curious, there are lots of good tutorials. And so after you've done that slip setup, which is kind of part of the brioche anyway, you sew the tubular bind off, and it's coming out rather tight here. I think the other sleeve was even tighter. Yeah, like it doesn't go any further than this. Do I want that? I've had some like cotton jumpers from stores and stuff, and when the seam at the bottom hem is tighter than the actual fabric, I get very annoyed with that. I don't know what it is. It's just something, tactile texture or something. I'm just like, nope, nope. So any advice on flexible tubular bind off? I'm all ears if it's still tubular, obviously. Other than that, goodness me, I love this thing. I love how Isolde's been shaping the raglan on this, because as you can see here, it kind of curves. This is not your usual raglan. It's a really lovely shoulder fit. I just wish everyone would do this when it comes to designing raglans. Not just like this uniform that increases at the same rate, but has this really lovely shaping. I'm so thrilled about it, and I can't wait to wear it and feel how that fits so much better, because I tend to find raglans a bit too tight here and a bit too loose later, and it needs to be a bit more tailored. And the front element, again in brioche, is really lovely. It's just unfortunate that the brioche is so loose. I could have just done smaller needles, but yeah, didn't do that. Oops. And the yarn. Oh, the yarn. This is Stein Fine Wool by the Little Grey Sheep. If you've been to Edinburgh Yarn Festival or any other major British yarn festival, you will have seen it. You will have felt it. It is amazing. It is so soft. It is their own breed of sheep. And I love it so much. I wonder if it's a little bit pill prong, because it did get very quickly very floofy around the brioche on the neck. But the rest of it has held up fine as I've been working on it. So I'm hopeful. It does seem awfully similar to the Polwarth yarn by Isolde. That was a limited blend by Isolde and Jornarben that was recommended for the pattern. So I've been able to get a similar gauge, row and stitch wise, because it's such a similar fibre, and spun similarly as well. So that was a really good substitute, and I just so happened to have it in stash, because how could I resist this colour and this yarn? This is the perfect burgundy. It looks very blown out right now, but it's a very dark burgundy. It's not blue, it's not red, it's not brown, it's just in that burgundy sweet spot where it's not too warm, not too cold, not too bright, not too dark. I love it. If you were in any doubt which kind of burgundy I like, it's this one. Yeah. I have a very broad definition of burgundy, but if you were to like find the prototype, oh yeah. I did get 4 skeins of this when I bought it at last year's Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and that seems to have been a perfect amount for this. I have just started to work on the last cake, and it's going to be a considerable amount left. This is usually how it goes for me. If I work on 4 skeins of fingering weight yarns, I will need the 4th skein, but not an awful lot of it. So, and it should be mentioned that this is a fingering weight yarn / 4-ply that has shorter than average meter edge for that kind of weight. So the meter edge is kind of erring on the sport weight side, but I would still argue that it's fingering weight. And that is all I have for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. There is one last thing I want to mention because I forgot it in the previous episode. Very naughty of me. I actually forgot it in the one before that as well, but that was because I didn't quite know when it would come out at the time of recording, even though it came out on the same day that I put out the episode. And that is a video you can find on Knitting Vicariously, because Caroline of Dunderknit, or Knitting Vicariously, which is the name of her podcast, had just the funniest idea when we were sat up in Edinburgh, being very overtired and thinking, this is a great video idea, and then a bunch of us got together and did the thing. And just head over to her channel if you want to have a laugh. But yeah, it was all her idea. It was really funny and we got a good laugh of it, so I hope you got too, even though I'm letting you know like more than 2 weeks too late. But what can I say? You're not surprised. Nobody's surprised. I do not have any acquisitions this week. I know, it's a miracle, especially given that I have found myself on numerous occasions in yarn shops, yet I remain strong. I am knitting from stash. It's not something I'm committing to, but it's, you know, it's always a good thing if you have as much yarn as I do. But if I see yarn I want, I will still buy it. So, you know, there's someone on the way in the post to me, so I'm not going to pretend to be all that virtuous. And yeah, that is, as I said, all I have for this week, and I thank you all so much for watching and hope to see you next time. Bye!